4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to the second half of our Monday, May the 4th City Council meeting. We will reconvene after our scheduled recess. And we have one delegation that is planned to attend, a representative from Nighthawk Year-Round Adventure Park. I see Mr. Jonathan Clarkson is with us, at least in picture form. Jonathan, if you're there and if you could turn your camera live, we'd be happy to welcome you. There you go. Hi, Jonathan. Welcome.
Thank you, Bill. And I also have, Council, this is certainly an interesting way to meet with you guys right now. This is, I love it. Zoom is the new way of doing business. I also have with me today Tom Watts. He's also on the call here. He's our board president with Nighthawk. So again, thank you guys for having us, and hope you're all doing well, keeping safe and keeping healthy. Great to see you back, Clyde. And so I'm just going to share my screen here with you guys, if I can get this working properly here. Just a second. You have a presentation. Did that pop up on your screen?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. All right. So again, thank you guys for your time here tonight, and I'll try and keep this going so that you guys can get to your dinners and all that with your family tonight. So again, thank you. Basically, reason Tom and I are here is to basically put a request into council for a reallocation of our already received capital funds to operating due to forced closure of our winter operations on March 17th due to COVID-19. I'm sure you're hearing from multiple community groups in that with regards to the challenges in that they've experienced due to what's going on. And I know you guys are no different than that in that sense too, with all the things and changes that have been happening with council. So on that, just to jump straight into it. So this is just kind of basically a snapshot of our winter season and how things were progressing, and the work that we had done over the past winter season to reduce expenses. Even though our revenue is down 11%, our expenses we managed to drop by almost 22%. So certainly some great efficiencies that were found. Also with some of the capital improvements that we've done over the past years, some great efficiencies from that too, in snowmaking in particular, with in terms of fuel costs being down almost over $30,000 in diesel fuel costs. So I'll just proceed on to the next slide. So again, some of the things that we did this season to reduce our expenses, we did close down our restaurant for lunches and Tuesday evenings. We just didn't find that they were busy enough to warrant having staff on location and be doing all the work that was needed to have that open. So we did shut down the restaurant for lunches and Tuesday evenings. We also had our duty manager shifts scheduled by salaried employees. That was included myself and one other salaried employee covering those duty manager shifts. Basically, that role is the person who basically oversees the operations when management isn't there. So just making sure that staff show up and that operations happen, deal with any customer issues, that sort of thing. So we took that on this season. We don't see it as necessarily a long-term solution, but it's something that, again, we were able to do this season to again, save some money and get us back on track. Also, we eliminated one shift supervisor position for our outdoor operations. Again, this was just particularly around finding some efficiencies and also the level of staff that we had this year in terms of their maturity and their age. As you know, every year is different in the seasonal business. We have challenges, obviously, depending on how busy oil and gas is or isn't, and that can really change the level of operation staff that we do have every year. So this year we were very fortunate in that sense. So we were able to cut back on one shift supervisory position without risking safety and of our guests and of our staff. Food and beverage supply expense was reduced significantly, so by 42% actually from the year previous. We did have a 32% reduction in revenue on that side, but again, that was from eliminating things like Tuesday evenings and lunches from the previous year. Our employee benefit program also, we were able to find reduced premiums with that just by switching suppliers and actually better benefits for our employees in that sense. as I mentioned earlier, our diesel fuel costs, we were able to reduce those by over $30,000 just by the snowmaking gun upgrades that were, again, thanks to your support in that capital upgrade. But it helped us reduce the amount of air that was needed, which is a big expense, especially when we're using our diesel compressor. We were actually able to get by with our electric compressor that was installed as part of our 2010 snowmaking upgrade. We also removed Wednesday and Saturday night skiing. From the previous season, we just didn't find that it was the financial return just wasn't there when we went through and did the reporting, and just the number of skiers that were staying from the day and then also coming out and buying new tickets just wasn't there. So again, just tightening up the ship. Snowcat operating efficiencies, again, this comes back to staffing. We had more experienced operators this year, and again, that can change from year to year, but this year that translated into less hours than last year, which also meant fuel savings and wage savings. So definitely something that was great to have. Minimum wage, as everybody knows, $15 down to $13.50, and the majority of our staff being seasonal temporary employees, the majority of them are working for minimum wage, so that was certainly an easy 10% savings in that sense. I know that it really affected us when it did go up to $15 a few years back, and the ski industry as a whole. Scheduling changes, again, using experience and data from our new ticketing software that was part of our upgrades here with capital funding in the last 4-year program, just to adjust and fine-tune shift start time. Just again, finding those efficiencies in staffing and scheduling. And another thing that we do quite often and have been doing for years, but continuing cross-training between departments to improve operational efficiencies there too. So taking staff and basically following the customer throughout the day. So I guess we'll just leave questions in that to the end here. So the month of March. So this was where I guess the big impact came for us this season. With regards to our operations. So as you can see, I mean, it's certainly no surprise there, being shut down on March 17th. We lost out on about $60,000 in school group revenue alone, just for the 11 school groups that weren't able to come out to the hill. And then, of course, the lift ticket revenue, rental revenue, food revenue, that all goes with that. It's all part and parcel. But that resulted in that over 50% reduction in revenue for us. And that, the steps that we took here to, I guess, reduce our operating costs due to COVID-19. So immediately we had to make the tough decision to issue ROEs and issue seasonal layoffs to approximately 60 employees. That's on that day. We also issued ROEs and temporary layoffs to approximately 20 year-round employees. Again, they are on a temporary layoff currently, and with current new, I guess, labor standards, we've got until July 20th that if we don't bring them back in the same capacity, we will have to issue severance pay. So that's something that we're preparing for here too. We've only kept 6 staff to keep our RV park operations and municipal capital projects moving forward, and also the administration side. And working on the things that we need to make sure that we're ready to go for next season, and also just able to operate this summer with Bear Paw now that the government's announced the opening of golf courses last Thursday. That certainly was some welcome news for us there. We also contacted all of our suppliers that provide us with monthly services, and just to inquire about suspending services. We were able to actually negotiate some things with TELUS and with our payment processing suppliers, our IT suppliers, and those to either suspend services altogether or cut back our fees monthly. So we've certainly been working on those types of things to help us with that. We've also returned all unopened beverage inventory to our suppliers, and that was about a $4,000 hit there. Just again, being shut middle of operating, we had a lot of inventory that we were sitting on because we were preparing for those 11 school groups that were still going to be coming to see us. And then any food that we weren't able to send back, we sold about $7,000 of it to our staff and to community partners like Sunrise House. Tanya came down and actually purchased a lot for the youth shelter there too. So that being said, we've also been taking advantage of some of the federal and provincial subsidy programs that have been made available. So obviously the temporary wage subsidy, which was a 10% reduction in source deductions. we took advantage of that right away, so reducing our CPP and EI remittances or I should say income tax remittances to the government. Right away we did that. We're just in the middle of it, submitting our Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy application for the 75% of employee wages for the 12 weeks to the maximum of $847. So we've done some calculations, and you'll see in the scenarios that'll be showing here right away what that impact is. We've also, with direction of our board and the municipal reps on our board, we just applied to our bank for the $40,000 business loan with the 75% repayments by 2022. So again, this is just some of the steps that we're taking, as well as the WCB premium deferrals that every business in Alberta has been able to defer until 2021. So now that being said, we've gone into some scenario planning here. We've done a best case, most likely, and a worst case scenario here. And I'm not sure if you guys received this ahead of time or not, so what we've done here in our best case scenario is we've done about a 75% occupancy or capacity with the RV park, which is what we're seeing right now. We're sitting at about 65% occupancy, and we continue to get calls daily for sites, for long-term sites. It's actually interesting. There's still work happening south of town, and guys and families are still coming in and needing space to rent that. Bike Park in Bear Paw open in June. Bear Paw, obviously, after last Thursday, we weren't able to make the adjustments on this, but now Bear Paw will be opening May 15th. So I think there will be a pent-up demand, as for all outdoor recreation right now. Just seeing, even on the weekend, the difference that that announcement has made to the traffic in the city. It's almost a little scary how quickly people return to normal. But we'll be making the necessary, taking the government guidelines and everything to make the necessary changes to Bear Paw operations to make sure that that's done safely. But back to this now. So Bear Paw and Bike Park open June, July, and August, and our Summer Slide open July and August. Again, this is best case scenario. And if we start reaching those other stages of stage 2 with summer camps and that being allowed again, that's going to be a big part of this. And again, still having to prove to our customers and our guests that we can do this safely and welcome their children back to Nighthawk in a safe manner too. So with the best case scenario, and I'm not going to go line by line here, but total net income is about $53,000. So, and if you have any questions about this later on, we can certainly go into a little bit more detail. Most likely scenario, so again, leaving our RV park, because right now, like I said, it's been sitting, right now it's about 65%. So still leaving it at that 70%. Bear Paw and Bike Park and summer camps open July and August only. Again, now that we've learned that Bear Paw can open sooner, this will obviously affect this bottom line number. But also a 30% reduction in revenue to all of those things, because obviously we don't think that people are going to all come, as much as for some activities they might come back in droves, but we don't think that they're going to come back as normal. Also, no summer slide for this year in our most likely scenario, and so that leaves us with a net income of $11,000, almost $12,000 at the end of that. And again, this is covering our day-to-day and monthly expenses, so still taking into account our utilities and everything like that. So we're still covering all of our expenses on from here forward, Mark, I guess, through these next 4 months. And then, of course, worst case, so all revenue generating services are closed. And with this, we basically, again, we still need to be preparing ourselves for next season. But I guess the worst case would be that Nighthawk closes and we lay all of our staff off. And that would be the worst case, I guess. But with regards to our worst case scenario, a net income of about a negative $180,000 roughly over the course of those 4 months. So with that, I guess the ask, and as I mentioned earlier, just at the beginning of the presentation, our board of directors and management would like to request council, and we're going to all 3 of our municipal partners here with the same ask, is to approve a reallocation of capital funding that Nighthawk has already received from our municipal partners to be used for operating to assist Nighthawk with its immediate financial liabilities. And with that, this is how that gets split out, so essentially based on what we received last year. And typically, our funding model is at usually a 50% and then 25 and 25 model. Last year, the City of Grande Prairie actually gave us additional funding that was, I guess, cut from the year previous because of budget cuts, I'm assuming. But they actually, the city actually approved an increase in funding from last year's in terms of capital. So that's why the MD and the city are so close in this regard. So, and it's made up of roughly about 39% of the total funding that each of the municipal partners has given us. So again, how will this help? So these funds will be used to immediately assist us with our financial liabilities to our suppliers and community partners, which currently are at about approximately $134,000. We also, at the end of our season, saw roughly about I think it was a $40,000 decrease in net revenue over the full year. Even though our winter season was on track to be profitable, the rest of the year operations brought that to about a $40,000 deficit for the year. So, and again, thank you guys for your time. I didn't want to keep you too long there. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer them. And Tom's online here too. So.
Great. Thanks very much, Jonathan. Appreciate the presentation and appreciate that you went through a lot of information pretty quickly. Great job. So any questions for Jonathan or Tom? Councillor Bressie.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. It was great to see the different scenarios and to know exactly what's going on with you guys, and I sure appreciate the efforts made to contain costs. I'm just curious, if we approve this and if all 3 municipalities approve this request, which capital projects are going to be delayed and what's the consequence of that to you guys?
For sure, and that was one of the things. So myself and our maintenance manager, John Gibson, sat down and went through that, and basically under direction of our board, identified those items, the capital items that weren't directly going to affect safety and or overall efficiency of operations for next year. So some of those things that we identified were snowmaking gun purchases, which was budgeted at $50,000. Energy reduction campaigns, which were $25,000. There was snowcat reserves at $80,000. Luge track repurposing at $15,000. The total that we identified that we could defer in terms of capital projects that wouldn't directly affect things were roughly a total of about $245,000. But with direction of the board and what we've been able to work through with these scenarios, we feel that 175 would, and it'd be up to 175. It wouldn't be that would be used, that full amount would be used. It's only if we need to. So again, we have immediate liabilities of $134,000 to local suppliers, but other than that, if we don't need to use the full 75, we don't want to have to use it. So,
and then I don't know a lot about your guys' operations, but from what you're saying, tell me if this is a fair characterization of the consequence of that. It sounds like, based on those things, that if you delayed or if you never got to do these capital projects, it probably wouldn't really have a big impact on customer experience, but it'd make you guys more expensive to run in the long term is what it sounds like. Totally, and especially, let's say the snowcat, for example. I mean, we had as part of this, the initial capital plan over the previous 4-year plan, it was that on year 5, we would always be getting a new snowcat so that we weren't having hour out machines like we'd previously been dealing with, machines that were needing ongoing maintenance and weren't going to have any value at all in the market when we went to go sell them, as we saw with the machines that we upgraded, I guess, five years ago. So yeah, it's definitely not a direct impact now. Obviously it pushes out the amount of time that it's going to take before we can buy a new groomer. But currently with the machines we have, I mean, we're definitely sitting well right now with that. So. Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Clayton?
Questions answered, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Blackburn, did I see you?
Yes, and I don't have a question. I just wanted to comment that I was very impressed with the changes that you made to your operations to reduce your expenses. It looked like you wrung the towel dry. Well done.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know necessarily that all of those things are sustainable. Obviously, just from the hours that some of us as salaried employees are putting in, but at the same time, we had to do what we had to do. So
Okay. Any other questions from council? Is there anybody else that I missed? No, I don't think so. Okay. Okay. Jonathan, Tom, thanks very much for making yourselves available. Thanks for making the presentation. I did have one, Jonathan. Have you made the? So you said you were going to make the same presentation. I wasn't sure if you had, and if you have you heard back from the other municipalities?
No. So we're scheduled to make the presentation to the county on Monday the 11th, and the MD on, I believe it's Tuesday the 19th. So those presentations we made at all of those, and the board has talked to each of our individual municipal reps, though, Councillor Thiessen being one of them, and then also Reeve Beaupre and so on.
Okay, that's great. Councillor Clayton, you had something maybe?
Yeah, sorry, thanks, Mayor Given. Jonathan, walk me through the split. In the past, prior to Regional Recreation Committee being established, there was sort of a mutual understanding that the ski hill was something that the MD provided to the region in regards to recreation, and therefore the first approach being them with 50% in the city and the county at 25%. And regardless of what happened last year with a top up in capital, et cetera, but tell me why the approach sort of changed with not asking the MD for 50%.
Well, the ask to the MD was actually 50%. So they actually chose, council from the MD last year made the decision to reduce that ask. So we went in with a full 50% ask, and they came back, I believe it was 48.5 less was what the amount in reduced funding was.
So you just chose to stick with the same approach this year, based on their decisions from last year?
No.
With this 175, I mean. Yeah,
so this 175 is basically just taking 39% of what each of the municipalities gave overall, and that. So we're still going to be moving forward with the 50% 25-25 model in terms of our capital ask for 2021.
Right.
But that was where this came in for this.
Okay.
This.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? One last opportunity. Oh, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given, and thank you very much, Jonathan, for coming and presenting. You made my job for updating council on Nighthawk a lot easier later on in the meeting here. I'm trying to, so it was $60,000. I'm trying to remember our meeting. I'm going over minutes too, and also what you presented. But what exactly is the amount that you're looking to switch over from capital to operations?
Right.
There it is, 63,000. Okay.
You betcha.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. Getting good at this Zoom thing.
That was super quick. Nicely done. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have anything else for you guys. Thank you very much for the presentation. We deal with our delegation stuff actually next after we go through the public hearings, which we don't have any of those, so we'll deal with that shortly. If you want to just maybe pop off screen, you're welcome to listen in. Obviously our administration would contact you to follow up if you weren't able to stay on the line, but thanks very much for being here.
You bet. And if you want, I did forward this presentation to Amanda as well, so if you do want to look into it in more detail as well, you're more than welcome to look at all the slides presented there too.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you again, guys.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. So we don't have any public hearings this evening. We are here just really for the delegations. So we'll move into delegation business and any business arising from that. I see Councillor Thiessen.
Hey, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I feel like this is incumbent upon me to make this motion since I am the council appointed rep for Nighthawk. So I would move that council approve Nighthawk Year-Round Adventure Park to transfer $63,000 of our capital funding into operational funding to deal with these shortfalls.
Okay, thanks very much. And Councillor Thiessen, did you say up to or did you say specifically?
Well, I said specifically 63,000. That was the ask. If you want me to massage it and go up to, I have total faith and confidence that since Jonathan took over the organization as our general manager, he's done an exceptional job in working with the board and trying to work through some of these changes. And obviously the state of the world as it is right now, not the easiest way to walk into a new job, but he's done great. And I have utmost faith and trust that he won't just piddle it away, so to speak. So 63,000 for the whole amount. If he needs it, they can use it. And if he doesn't, well, then I'm sure it'll go back into capital.
Okay, thanks very much. Open for discussion and debate. Any discussion, debate? Councillor Bressy, then O'Toole, and then Friesen.
Great, thank you. I'll be supporting this, and I really appreciate Nighthawk making an ask that's based on repurposing existing funds and jiggling their budget instead of asking for new money. That's really appropriate given where we are right now when we're still in the midst of this COVID-19 thing and we don't know the full financial impacts on us or on the community at the same time. So I'll be supporting this. At the same time, I really want to acknowledge that they are making decisions that will have consequences, including more expenses in the future. And I think it's not just them, but a lot of other nonprofits that are making that decision. So I just hope we're really conscious coming out of this that we're looking at as our local nonprofits, our community relies on for recreation, all kinds of other services, are giving up some of the resiliency just to survive. I hope that we're talking about how can we help our business community be more resilient and get back on their feet, but also that we're remembering the decisions like this that are being made by our nonprofits, and we're cognizant of that as we're figuring out the funding going into future years.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Bressy. Councillor O'Toole, then Councillor Friesen.
Yeah, Mayor Given, I think the presentation by Jonathan was excellent, very proactive in making decisions right away, not dilly-dallying and wondering what to do. There's a lot of money at stake. You can see where he, got rid of the food and all the stuff that could expire, and actually brought in some revenue from that, or at least not as much of a debt. And I totally support this motion, and I'm looking forward to them being in full operation with the golf course right away, because I'll probably be out there. And in the fall, I'm not much of a skier, but I sure don't mind the dried ribs out there. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Friesen.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I do appreciate the work that Jonathan and his crew out there have done to get their expenses in line. And it's a tough year for sure that we're facing. I would support this motion, but I would like to propose that we do amend it to say up to 39%, or up to the 63,000. And my rationale is that is how it reads in the request, is up to 39% of the total. And I think that precision of language is important. It looks well on Nighthawk to have requested it in that way, and I would like our minutes and our decision to reflect that as well, so that it is in the records. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Friesen. So that motion to amend to include the up to is in order, obviously. Any discussion or debate on the amendment? No, I don't see. Councillor Plott?
Thanks, Raymond. I really like this amendment, actually. I think it does speak well as far as the regional components. I appreciate the amendment. That's a really good one. Thank you. I will be supporting it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Plott. I don't see anybody else's hands up on the amendment. Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. So we're back to the main motion as amended. Is there any further discussion or debate on that? Don't see anything. Chris, as a mover, do you feel the need to close? No? Okay. Then I'll call for the vote on the main motion as amended. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I think that deals with our delegation business. Thanks again to Jonathan and Thomas for their attendance tonight, and certainly appreciate the work they're doing out to keep such an important recreational facility available for Grande Prairie region residents. So I think that takes us into council member reports, and I'll just, this is so easy, I don't have to move my head side to side like when we're in council chambers to try to see all of you. So is there anybody that has reports from their external organizations they represent? Councillor Clayton. You'll just have to get your mic, Councillor Clayton.
Thanks. I have a couple, but I can do one and come back, whatever you prefer. I just wanted to give an update from Grande Prairie Regional Tourism perspective. The organization has hired a marketing firm to work on the tourism the tourism plan going forward in a campaign, as well as branding. There's a 30, 60, 90-day plan, as well as an interim COVID plan of what that looks like for creating, sustaining, promoting the region in regards to, while you can't come necessarily visit us yet, when you do, we want to be front of mind. So, or when you can, we want you to be, we want to be front of people's minds. So that proposal is well underway, and the committee is working hard on that. As well, there's been regular calls and updates from the executive director as what Travel Alberta has done. Travel Alberta, for everyone's knowledge, has decreased their size substantially as an organization right now. You know, obviously they're working with the government to see what travel and tourism looks like going forward. And so, you know, we've got a lot of information on a regular basis as what that looks like. And I think that there's a lot of work ahead, but I'm optimistic with this new plan and working closely with Travel Alberta that tourism will start to grow when the time is right. The other one, if I'll keep going, if that's okay, is CAB. So council all received an update today in regards to the Community Advisory Board on Homelessness, and last week they had a meeting in regards to working with the nonprofits and what that sort of looked like. Different organizations updated CAB in different sort of opportunities that are there for these organizations that they're doing within our region, as well as needs, and each determining sort of needs that were there sort of to work together, and in my opinion, it highlighted a lot of opportunities for efficiencies with these organizations going forward, and what they can do to sort of support each other, as well as strengthen the programming and the offerings that they provide to our region. So that was a really good meeting, and I appreciate the update being sent to all of council. And I think that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. I think so. In order, well, not necessarily in order, but I believe I saw Councillor Plott, Councillor O'Toole, and Councillor Bressie as well with updates. And Councillor Thiessen, thank you. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. A couple updates. We had a storm, not really a board meeting, but kind of a strategic planning with as far as Revolution Place comes. So we got to tour the little facility. We come up with a little bit of a plan and looked at this Revolution plan. So you'll probably see something coming in your inboxes about the storm wanting to support some capital projects at Revolution Place. So I'm looking forward to the conversation about Revolution Place in general. So I think nothing else, this will kickstart that. Also had an Economic Development Committee meeting last week, and it was a very good conversation. Councillor Thiessen and myself and Rebecca put quite a bit of thought into what we wanted to get out of this. We had a really good roundtable with the people that were involved in the industry, talking about their businesses, how they've shifted, and how they're kind of redefining themselves in this new world. Rebecca did a great job from Economic Development presenting on all the things that the city's involved with and all the different options people have through the chamber and different organizations. She talked about our 4-step plan with resiliency, assessment and support, reopening, and recovery. And so our committee talked a lot about recovery and what a vital role they could play with that as well. You know, the comments from the committee were pretty standard things you're probably hearing in the community. A couple things that just jumped out at me was one of them at this time was the CERB thing, having $2,000 a month for employees was actually hurting some people keeping their staff. So something I think they're addressing now where they moved it up to $1,000 earnings before. So just little tweaks the government's making as they go. We did get a really good letter from the chamber though that had 9 recommendations. Economic Development circulated those to the members of the committee, had a pretty good response, and actually the 9 recommendations that the chamber is putting forward are excellent, and I think there should be reviewed by council. So I do want to just ask if I can, Mayor Gibbon, how I would introduce those, because I had meant to jump in earlier through Economic Development. If I wanted to have this chamber letter come through to a committee, would I just need to make a message at the end of this, or would that become to a committee next week?
Sure. So, sorry, I wasn't quite clear, Councillor Platt. Have they already written it up as a letter?
Yes, they have, and they give it to Economic Development, and it was a little bit. We were hoping to get a little bit earlier, and it just kind of come in a little bit late. So I'm not sure if there's a chance to get their letter submitted to one of our standing committees next week, so we could speak to it and address it there.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I think the deadline is usually, the sort of Wednesday of this week, latest Thursday. We could even do a walk-on. Director Glavin is on the call, and so I think he's heard this, and I don't think it's a big deal between Director Glavin and the city clerk to be able to add that. So we'll make sure that happens.
Okay, much appreciated. Thanks. That's all for my updates.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Mayor Given. I just wanted to give you an update on the Alberta Bilingual Municipalities Association. The members, starting from the northeast part of the province, are Bonnyville, Lac-La-Biche, Plamondon, and St. Paul. Central part is Beaumont, Legal, and Morinville. The northwest is Donley, Girouville, Tulare, Grande Prairie, McLennan, Morinville, and Smoky River. And we have some discussion here on the benefits of membership. Increases the competitiveness of the municipality compared to unilingual municipalities. Increases the region's attractiveness to investment by demonstrating openness to collaborate with ventures. Greater access to francophone and bilingual entrepreneurs, business community. Increases the region's scope of influence at provincial and federal levels, and encourages business startups and growth. Also supports the creation and consolidation of community projects, and increases the economic growth. I've been constantly with emails and conversation over the phone with Suzanne Proves and Sophie Kwan. They are both the director and coordinators of development in entrepreneurship department of the board membership. And so there's a lot of other things going on, but I just wanted to let you know that I have been keeping up to my role here as a board member, and just a quick update that we haven't been visiting because of the situation going on, and also it reduces the cost of travel with everybody as well. So anything that we do is done through phone calls. So it's one of the ways that we can save some money and keep the municipalities that really can't necessarily afford the extra costs down to a minimum. So there's my report for the Alberta Bilingual Municipalities Association. And I do have one other report, the Philip J. Curry Dinosaur Museum. I know the city does not have a designated individual to represent that from the city. I have been doing it for almost 10 years. They're having their AGM in the next week or so. And I have gave notice that I'm going to step down from that board. As serving for 10 years, I think it's time that there's an opportunity for someone else to take my seat. I've got no issues, no concerns. I just think that it's just time. And with that, I wish the board out there, museum, nothing but success. And it's filled a big amount of time in my life over the last 10 years. So there you go. Thank you very much. There's my reports.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Bressie, and then Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you. I'll just give a quick update from the Sport Connector board. First of all, the Sport Connector is moving offices. They're going to be moving in with Volunteer Service Bureau at the community village, at least for the rest of this calendar year, once they're allowed to get into their offices. So that's exciting for us. It's always exciting for me to see something. I know they do a lot of meetings with people, so it's exciting for me that those meetings are going to be near our downtown core. It's exciting for me that we're going to be working close with the VSB. Also, as a board member, I'm kind of excited that our staff are going to have natural sunlight now, and so I think that'll be a good move for us. One other thing to give council an update on is Try It Day was scheduled for June 6th, and who knows what the protocols around social distancing will be then. So we've made the decision to take Try It Day virtual. How it's going to work is sports groups are invited to make videos about here's how you try our sports and submit them to the Sport Connector. We'll launch them all on June 6th, and then families will be encouraged to do them together, whether they're doing one video or whether they're doing 10 videos will be up to them. And we've got some sponsors donating some pretty good prizes for families that submit pictures or videos of them either by email in the Sport Connector or by putting them on social media. So we're excited about the opportunities this provides. It's going to give a good video library of sports in the region that people can access anytime. And it's kind of excited to try it. Day will be a family instead of just a kids activity this year. So it's a cool opportunity that the organization's using to adapt to COVID-19.
Thanks, Councillor Rusty. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Gibbon. I have two updates to give, but first, before I do that, I'd just like to take this moment to thank Kevin O'Toole for his decade of service to the Philip J. Currie Dinosaur Museum, whether as appointed by council or on his own free will and accord. He's been an incredible advocate for the museum, as well as an incredible advocate and I'd say ambassador for the region through the museum. So, Kevin, thank you for your dedicated years of service. When I say dedicated, I kind of want to say decadated and switch it all up there, but just because it's 10 years. Way to go. Thank you, Kevin. Anyways, just in a report update from Nighthawk, you got most of the good stuff from our executive director, but a couple things that I made note that he didn't touch on. Our 9-round Charity Golf Classic tournament has been tentatively rebooked to Thursday, August 13th at this time, pending any changes. It may also go back as this meeting was from April 28th, and that was the plan at the time. As Jonathan had alluded to, we have minimized a lot of our daily operations, but some of the other things that Jonathan and his work crew, as well as the board, are moving towards is we're using this on administrative projects, including our employee policy manual, working on OH&S policy updates, and finalizing our strategic plan, business plan, and marketing plan with Holly Sorgan. As far as food services, as Jonathan said, all events for May, June, and July have been canceled. And just recently, tower assemblies were removed from towers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the haul rope has been detentioned and lowered to the ground to prevent damage in the event of a slide. Now, I say that, this is part of that capital grant that Jonathan was talking about, where we're not compromising safety of anybody on the hill. This is a precautionary, as we've noticed that there has been some sliding, and we're waiting to get all the geotechnical updates. We got an updated LiDAR coming to us, showing us kind of the condition of the slope, and we're working with the geotechnical company, J-Vans Construction, who has provided an excavator and an operator for the removal of those towers, or at least the part components that in the event of a slide could cause more damage to the hill. And we'll be working further to find an assessment and value for the potential risk of any kind of slope slide. It's just sort of conditional with the area, and so something that we always have to be mindful of at Nighthawk. And that does it for the Nighthawk updates. Just a short update here. Oh no, it dropped. There we go. Peace Library Systems just hired a new CAO. Louisa Robinson was the successful proponent for the job. We went through our last round of interviews about 2.5 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago she was picked and selected as the heir apparent or replacement for Linda Duplessis. To that extent, she'll be taking over as of August 10th, 2020, and Linda will be staying on a couple extra months just until she's ready to get there and get up to speed. Just a little background on our new executive director. Louisa grew up in Grande Prairie and was originally a page at the Grande Prairie Public Library at one point in time before she furthered her educational career. She obtained her library technician diploma from Grant MacEwan College, and from there she has served as head librarian at the Alberta Government Library. She's the executive advisor to the Assistant Deputy Minister of Service Alberta, and most recently was the manager and head librarian Open Information, FOIP, and Information Management at Service Alberta. So we look forward to having Louisa there. She's got a pretty extensive background and history with libraries, and really excited to meet her personally, but also to see her come on and add her new ideas to the mix. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Any other boards and committees? Anybody else I missed? I'll just briefly say I have had an AUMA board meeting and an AUMA Municipal Governance Committee meeting. A variety of different topics, as you can imagine. AUMA is obviously working on behalf of its municipal members with respect to COVID. There's a great resource website if you haven't checked out, or if any of you are in contact with councillors from other municipalities, and maybe just encourage them to check it out. There is a great resource there for municipal leaders and for municipalities. Many smaller municipalities obviously rely on AUMA to collate information that's moving as rapidly as things are with respect to the pandemic. And so it's a great resource, and I know many of you have lots of contacts with other council members from across the province. So encourage people you know to have a look at that. AUMA was also active in advocacy on infrastructure funding for the stimulus. AUMA has taken a position that it should be a MSI, basically using the MSI formula, and encouraging the provincial government to increase the amount of MSI available to municipalities in 2020. And to do a really a fairly significant, like I believe it's about $1.5 billion of MSI, and to book it into this year, but then have it paid out over the next couple of years. So some immediate funds to be able to enable municipalities to do shovel-ready projects, but also some ongoing funds to be able to continue that progress over the next year or so. So we'll see how that turns out. There's also a lot of other regular business, including discussion about AUMA's events like the Municipal Leaders Caucus, and they are still planning to host those. We'll see how gathering goes, but those are subject to change, obviously. And the convention is at this time still on. AUMA has bumped out, which you may, just out of curiosity, how many council members, I should know this from on my own council, how many of you receive updates from AUMA on things, like, do you get mail from Dan Rood, or do you get, no, not everybody? So if you don't get emails from AUMA, let me know. Like if any of my council members don't get emails from AUMA, if you're not on their distribution list, let me know and I can hook you up so that you can be. Just want to make sure that everybody is getting the info that's coming from them. But they have extended the deadline for submission for convention resolutions. Okay, kind of going, okay, yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, so some of that small business, the Municipal Governance Committee that I'm on is the one that will review all the resolutions before they go to convention. And there was also some talk about AUMA appointments to the Interim Police Advisory Board. This is the new advisory board that the province is going to set up with respect to the new police funding framework. And there's a commitment to have municipalities have an advisory board. There will be an interim advisory board that is going to be struck that will guide the development of the ongoing board. And so you may discuss that, as well as a number of other matters. But just wanted to relate to council that AUMA is continuing to work on behalf of all of us and to earn those membership fees, and that they continue to be a really great resource. Councillor Bressie, you did raise the peer mentor network and did have a chance to bring that up at the board meeting. The discussion really is how could AUMA transition from the peer mentor network as one specific stream and the only stream to being more of providing a platform for dialogue among municipal politicians. The point was made, though, that the peer mentor network, the people who are identified there actually receive specific conflict resolution training, and there is a greater expectation of privacy. So that probably will still be a part of that continuum of supports that AUMA can provide, but appreciate that there's a lot more flexible things that people are doing now with technology, and so certainly took that feedback and passed it on to the board, and I think it's part of the conversation now, so certainly appreciate that. And that's all I had from the AUMA board. So we'll go to council member roundtable reports. Councillor Minhas, your picture's right next to my picture on the top of my screen, so I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, my last 2 weeks was very big mess happened to our community, and he was one of the closest. Like he called me Papa. He done the business, couple business here in Edo and Opa and sandwich business in the major. We lost him. We tried to save him for a week. He was on the oxygen, what do you call, ventilator, but he didn't survive. So my 2 weeks was all spent with that thing, and this weekend we did the funeral at Bear Creek. But they did a very good job, so we were pretty happy they managed all the proper way to keep the distance, and we did get about a little more than what we should have been, because they got 3 halls and 15 people each hall, but they managed it somehow. So it was a tough week for me too, last 2 weeks. That's all. I didn't do other than, did something, but not too much. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Minhas, and obviously our deepest condolences to the entire community on the loss of an important community member. Councillor Friesen, you're next up.
Thank you. So there's not busy like we have been for sure, but I did get the opportunity, and I'm just looking for my notes, to attend with Minister Sani, who's Community and Social Services. It was a town hall call-in, and just to hear mostly what's happening with the supports that CSS has for individuals who are on AISH, persons with developmental disabilities, the FSCD, and what I heard is that they're certainly working very hard with families. So the majority of the questions were around people who have kids who are impacted by different disabilities, and the funding for children is often very specific to what their practical needs are. So they may get funding for an educational assistant at school, for instance. But now these kids are home. And the other thing that's happening is that families are now home as well and can assume some of the care that otherwise PDD would be paying an agency to do. So, so the ministry is trying to be flexible, and it sounds like with principles going forward, but almost on a case-by-case basis for families, making the best of what their needs are during this time. So that was really good to hear that the ministry is so responsive to that. There were also questions about group home workers as essential workers, and I think that the call was shortly after there was announcements about some frontline workers and essential workers having increase in wages and that sort of thing. And I thought it was important to comment on this because at first blush it seems that makes sense that group home workers would have those increases as well to their wages. But the difference is, so group home workers will not generally, and the difference is that they aren't caring for a high-risk population. So it's no different than us, staying within our family group at home is kind of the rationale. So even though it's an extraordinary time that we're living in, there's not necessarily extraordinary care needs within that environment. So, yeah, I just really appreciated being in on that call and hearing the responsiveness of the ministry to the groups that are served under CSS. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I have absolutely nothing to report.
Thanks, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Thiessen.
Oh, yeah, here we go. I actually have a couple things to report. I missed one of my reports only because on the day that I was supposed to meet with the Downtown Association, I actually did it over my phone while watching the Park Hotel come down to the ground with Councillor O'Toole, Mayor Given, and I think that was it from council there then, but I know every member of council went throughout that 24 hours to see it go. I know Jackie hit the Midnight Trail with Councillor O'Toole and a few others, but it was really great to see that building come down. I really look forward to the potential of what's going to come up next in that space, so happy to be a part of history there. Also, the virtual coffee that was held with local not-for-profits I found was very, very informative. I know our CEO touched upon it, but very, very incredible being able to sit down and touch base with, well, I don't know if Wade's and a few others were on that call too. I think it was about 20 different not-for-profits that were on there. and they expressed some of their concerns and some of their innovations that they thought of. So some of the things that we know, like mental health is going to be a big issue. Funding, grants and fundraisers are down, as well as sponsorship revenue will be down for not-for-profits, so they're concerned with that. We knew that. They may have to do program cuts. How are they going to bring back staff? What's the new normal? People in the housing industry know that there's been lots of rent, mortgage, and utility deferrals, and are pretty confident that evictions are going to happen. So we need to be prepared for that and prepared to support people who may enter into homelessness post-COVID. Also, education and childcare costs may be on the rise. That's some of the concern, as well as availability, maybe an over-availability of housing and rentals properties and the impact it has on landlords. Some of the innovations that I heard that were really positive, and I shared this with council, I'll just share it with the community now. Childcare, virtual childcare training through the Home Alone program. That has been discussed and is a program that they're working on right now. The community village put it out there that they have 9,000 square feet of space open, as well as office space. So if anybody needs to utilize that for whatever, it's open there. Victory Church also said that they have been handing out tablets for seniors to attend. Well, maybe it wasn't Victory Church. Virtual church, that's what it was, V-Church. Tablets for seniors to attend a virtual church. So some of our churches have been doing that, so people can still have their faith experience direct from their tablet, and also day camp kits for families in faith, just so that they can keep up with their biblical studies on Sundays and get that bit of schooling. We got cut off a little bit early, so I know there will be more innovations coming forward. Not very many people got to speak on that part of it. We were talking a lot about our concerns, and I think the next virtual coffee in my calendar is this week for Thursday, so I'd encourage council to take part, and I will do my best to take notes and share them with you as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Payson. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Erwin. Just a lot of committee business for me, mostly. Lots of active calls from the committee business. I think businesses are excited, confused, scared. There's lots of emotions going on with a lot of people in Grande Prairie in that segment for sure. So that was the bulk of my conversations. Then finding more and more tailgate meetings. People seem to be wanting to still find a way to meet in person, which I do appreciate because I'm getting kind of, well, we're 8 hours into Zoom, I think, today. So that's kind of a normal day nowadays. So I'm appreciating the people that are reaching out and we're meeting in parking lots and having tailgate chats and seeing that happen more and more, and just seeing some people out and about. It really does make me feel like we're going to come out of this and we're going to get back to some normalcy soon. So that's all for me.
Thanks, Councillor Plott. Councillor Bressie.
Thank you. I just want to highlight some of the feedback I've had from members of the public in terms of our city staff lately, and I've been hearing very good reports in the community. We're in a time that's very stressful for everybody, including our staff. So I'm happy to hear the good reports I've got. One was one resident who called me about some other matters, but she just happened to mention that she had a frozen drain right when the region was in the middle of its worst flooding, and she was scared that her house was potentially going to start getting flooded, and she didn't expect very quick help because, well, everybody else was having problems, and she had somebody who was very kind to her on the Citizen Contact Center, and she had staff there doing whatever they do to get our runoff running within about an hour, and so she was very thrilled about that. Another conversation I had was with a local business that's the chocolatier. I'll give a shout out to Shade Tree Chocolate. They're a regular staple on our house, but they're in the midst of growth right now, and they reached out to our economic development team, asking if there's any help to help them find a commercial kitchen, and they were connected with Eastlink Center, where the staff at Eastlink Center were very accommodating and very helpful to help them figure out how our public kitchen there could potentially be used for a foreseeable future. I think they ended up finding another solution that wasn't a city kitchen that worked better, but still, I just love to hear that our economic development team was doing their job, and our Eastlink Center staff were doing something that maybe wasn't fully their job, but they're still happy to help a member of our public. And then the last one I'll highlight is I spent a day last week just calling a number of the people I know who are working for organizations that serve our homeless folks and our folks that struggle to find housing. And I specifically called them just to ask, how are their clients doing these days? And every single one of them had good things to say about Director Manuel and his team and about how they've been flexible and accommodating. And of course, there's always room for improvement, and they definitely had some feedback on how the city can get better, but they said that they were actually overall shocked by how well the city's responded and how well the city's being flexible and fluid and responsive, and happy to provide our resources to keep these people who often get forgotten safe. And so I've been really impressed by our staff over the last month, and that's what I wanted to use my time to highlight today.
Thanks, Councillor Bessie. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I spent my time, one particular day was a long day, is the day that the Park Hotel went down. I was there with you and a number of other councillors watching it in the morning. And later that night, there was the reservoir that was getting a lot of water coming in. And I had an opportunity to go with one of the pilots here in town to look from the Bear Lake all the way to past the ball diamonds at Bear Creek. I got to witness some soil erosion from the creek banks. I got to see some housing that is definitely built in a floodplain and was disastrous to the landowner. We're going to need to possibly lobby the government, provincial government, to come up with some drainage concerns. It seems like it all falls into our place because this is where the reservoir is, but the issue actually starts outside of the Grande Prairie area. And so with that, I spent about an hour in the helicopter looking at this, and I just want to put a big thank you to our city manager, Horatio Galante. This is his forte, is water and damming and all that kind of good stuff. I also want to thank the rest of the staff. Brian Glavin was out there on his cell phone. I don't think he took 5 minutes to breathe. He was making sure that the power was turned off the Rotary Park. He was making sure that the staff were going to the high-risk areas and boarding off the parks and looking after the museum. He was there, but I got to tell you, he wasn't there because he was so involved in his job, which is really good to see that the people that were really important to be there were there and doing their job quite well. And I also want to just bring up one other topic. There's been people that have been stuck in their seniors in their rooms, apartments for like it's almost 8 weeks now. And I've had a number of calls from people that were really depressed and they wanted to talk to somebody, and I got 2 handfuls of numbers of people that had phoned me wanting what they can do and who they listen to, do they listen to, whatever. And when I was all done with them, pretty much every one of them was calmed down and understood. And but 8 weeks in one room is pretty hard on anybody. And in the end, I think we need to have a big party. And hopefully the end comes up pretty soon, because people need to have some joy in their life. It's kind of depressing watching the news at times. And I just want you to know that I was doing my part to cheer up some people, just getting them comfortable back in life again. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Clayton, I think you just were the last person on the list here. Councillor Clayton?
Thanks. Pretty much everything's been touched on. There's a few other things that came out of the virtual coffee meeting I wanted to highlight. The Community Foundation has started a couple new funds in the COVID response. The donations are matched by the government, not dollar to dollar, but there are applications available on their website. As well, the Sunrise House Shelter have ramped up their family support program, some to keep youth at home because obviously they didn't have as much space available due to social distancing within their own home. They are seeing some great successes with working with these families and providing virtual support. So that was a nice highlight to hear. And other than that, nothing else that hasn't already been touched on. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. Yeah, I'll be brief. I have done a couple of telephone town halls with provincial cabinet ministers. Appreciate the work that the province is doing to try to keep municipal leaders informed. I know Often the calls are a repeat of information that has been shared in other forums, but it is a good opportunity to hear the questions that others are asking, and sometimes to ask questions ourselves for the city. The last one that I had that was relevant was with respect to homeless populations when they have to do quarantining, and that was raised, flagged by our Director of Protective and Social Services. Was able to ask that question to Dr. Hinshaw, and she said it should follow up, and so I'm hoping administration has seen some more clarity on how to manage that. Over the last 2 weeks, I did take an opportunity to call the local managers and leadership of our 4 forestry operations. Just in terms of businesses that, one of them, Canfor, is one of the City of Grande Prairie's largest property taxpayers, so I thought that was an important connection to make. But more importantly, all 4 of the operations are major employers in our area. I just wanted to get, first off, to let them know that I was thinking about them, and that, that their operations are important to us and continue to be important to us. But also to check and see how their business planning was going. And I shouldn't have been surprised, actually I wasn't surprised that with the amount of priority and emphasis that the forestry industry puts on safety, that all 4 operations are continuing to run, that they've all implemented physical distancing, and that they're all very confident about their ability to continue to run. They said that generally the slowdown in the U.S. housing market is a slowdown in their business. International paper, I was a little bit of a standout just because of their product. It is actually something that is used in things like dressing gowns that are used in medical supply and a few other products. The type of fiber that comes from here is really important for that. And so, so it was a good reminder that many, many businesses absolutely are struggling. And there are also these really large, significant employers in our region who are continuing to operate, who are adapting their operations where necessary. And a couple of them who rely on deliveries from out in the bush, from wood coming in, made the observation that they're coming to a bit of a slowdown anyhow through the early COVID period with spring breakup. And so, so they all were quite confident, and I made the offer that if there was any way that the City of Grande Prairie or GPREP could support them, for them to reach out to us. On Friday the 24th, I was the guest speaker at the Friday Rotary Club to present on the city's COVID response. I have also done once a week calls with the mid-sized city mayors, my colleagues across the province, just to hear about the priorities from different communities and to join together in some advocacy, one specifically on infrastructure stimulus money. And I had the pleasure to assist the group in writing a letter on behalf of mid-sized cities that I think the majority of others were going to sign, basically suggesting that mid-sized cities are extremely well positioned to aid the government in getting Albertans back to work because we're geographically distributed across the province, and because we have the administrative support and complexity to be able to quickly handle large projects that are of a meaningful size. Essentially, we're trying to make a point that if you wanted to get infrastructure, if you wanted to get an economic stimulus going, mid-sized cities are the best place to do it. Edmonton and Calgary are just 2 large things in 2 spots where we're across the province, and we're of a large enough scale that our administrations could handle projects quickly. On behalf of the City of Grande Prairie, I also had a short call with Minister Taves to introduce our capital list that was approved at our last council meeting. I did write that letter, it did go off to government, but I thought I'd also follow up with Minister Taves, just have a one-on-one conversation with him to introduce that letter. There is one other milestone that I'd like to acknowledge in our community. It would have been a time of a really large gathering had it been any other year, but we have a 100th anniversary milestone in our community as St. Joe's Catholic Church has celebrated 100 years in our community. And so I think really important to acknowledge that and to congratulate the St. Joe's community and the Catholic community more broadly in Grande Prairie. Over that 100 years, obviously significant time in bringing people together and in serving in our community in so many different ways. And so in spite of the fact that there wasn't a big community celebration and event like they had originally planned, my congratulations out to the Catholic community and the St. Joe's Catholic Church community on their 100-year milestone. And with that, I think we'll call our meeting adjourned. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.